I would say learn mechanical and electrical, at least the basics of it. Learn how to turn a wrench, learn how to fix a wire that rubbed through, how to change a light on your own, all that little stuff. Learn how to change a fuel filter if you're gelled up on the side of the road in the wintertime. Get some mechanical idea, because it is very expensive to have things worked on.
A few of those words to truck buy for anyone thinking of going out and buying that first truck to haul as an owner-operator. They came from the multi-million safe mile owner-op Bryan Smith, this past year's grand prize winner in the Owner-Operator of the Year program Overdrive partners with the Truckload Carriers Association to produce. Smith walked away with $25,000 after the big win this past October, and you can read more about the owner in a feature profile published last week at overdriveonline.com. Just search his name, Bryan Smith, at the website. That's Bryan with a Y. Alternately, just hang in with me through the rest of this podcast, as we're going to hear much more from Smith about his one-truck business, leased to Tucker Freight Lines. That's the former Art Pape transfer fleet. Sold to the Tucker family a few years back and on a big growth spurt after decades well below 100 trucks. I'm Todd Dills, your host for this edition of Overdrive Radio, and Owner-Operator Smith and I here talked about that growth and his quite stable place within it these last years, though not without some adjustments on his part. There are a lot of new people to get acquainted with in the back office and on the road, for sure, he said. When we talked, though, he was under a pretty typical load on his way to the Port of Baltimore with a low-profile step deck.
We do tend to go out east a lot. I'm going out the Port of Baltimore.
Okay.
We end up taking a lot of tractors out there to ship overseas, and then we pick up the overseas-made tractors and take them off to dealers. The ones we bring out, they're usually oversized. This is just a big John Deere. It's about 11.5 wide, a little bit tall too, but right. Not extremely big, but good sized.
Do you own the trailer that you're running?
I do not own the trailer. I just own the tractor and a whole variety of trailers. Right now I have I guess what would be a low profile step deck. We also do a lot of RGNs and some regular flatbeds, straight flatbeds. So this one's not a double drop. It's just a single drop, but it's got the tiny little tires on there, as opposed to a regular step deck, which would have a little bit bigger tires. So I think they're 17-inch rims instead of the 22.5.
Owner-Operator of the Year Bryan Smith and I were talking just after the new year. When I asked him whether 2021 had beat his 2020 pandemic year in terms of net income, that year, 2020, of course, he had his very best net income year on record. Anyway, when I asked him about 2021, here's what he said.
I got to say, I haven't added everything up for my taxes yet, but I have a feeling it is going to be a little bit higher than even last year was.
A week or so after the conversation, Smith reported that on the revenue side, he did in fact bring in more in 2021. The cost increases we've all dealt with this past year were such that net income was slightly lower, in fact. The eventuality he had at least somewhat expected. Short-handed facilities along all of his routes, from truck stop restaurants to docks and ports, have continued to present a challenge, but he said generally issues have been kept to a minimum when it comes to getting heavy equipment on and off the trailer. Before we dive into that topic, as well as Smith's history, his solid net income performance these last two topsy-turvy years, his musical talents and martial arts instruction back at home in the Dubuque, Iowa area, and so much more, here's a word from Overdrive Radio's sponsor.
First Guard provides commercial truck insurance to leased owner-operators done right, as we've done for more than 80 years. We provide physical damage and non-trucking. Many companies make you pay up to 6 months of insurance premiums up front, but not First Guard. We bill monthly, so you get quality insurance without needing to pay a lot of cash up front. Go to firstguard.com. That's 1stguard.com. First Guard. We speak trucker. Let's talk.
But things haven't been too bad getting loaded at various places. A lot of these that we take out to Baltimore to the port, we actually unload those ourselves, which is fine. It's just driving it on, driving it off.
Have you learned familiarity with that kind of equipment in your time at Art Pay Truck Freight Lines, or do you come from a farming background, Brian?
I'm from Iowa. I've
Uh,
helped out on farms. I've worked here and there, odd job type things on farms. But probably more so, I was a heavy equipment operator in the Marine Corps, and that would be where I learned a lot more of the dozers, the graders, the cranes,
Right.
end loaders, things like that. And things have changed, dramatically since then, but it's easy to figure out on most of these. Sometimes they'll come out with something new, some new way of shifting, getting things into gear, and it takes you a little while, and you might even have to look it up online to see how to operate whatever it is. A regular farm tractor isn't difficult, but some of the stuff you get into can be kind of a mess.
Some of the bigger stuff, I imagine, or the more specialized.
Certainly, my heavy equipment experience in the Marine Corps has certainly helped me, especially on some of the, like I said, the dozers, excavators, things like that.
Right.
That maybe just jumping from the truck into that, it might be a little bit difficult at times, just to figure out how things move.
That Marine Corps experience was incurred in the Gulf War era, stationed for parts of it in the Middle East, and it wasn't until owner-operator Smith was back stateside that he went on to pursue a commercial driver's license and his first trucking job.
The way I started, I went to a community college, went to truck driving school. Even then, of course, it's limited as to where you can go, and Schneider was one of the big carriers that were hiring at the time.
Right.
So I went there. I did leave there, after a little while. Not saying anything bad about them. I just wanted to get home a little more, and the
Right.
Art Pape at the time, and what's now Tucker, is right there in my hometown, and that kind of more of a liberal home time policy. Whenever you really need time, you just tell them, hey, I need time. And
Right.
I started there too as a company driver, and then after about a year and a half or so, I bought my own truck, leased on there. My first truck, it was a used Martin company truck. It was a Freightliner FLD 120, I believe. That was it was used at the time. I kept that one for about a year and a half, and then I bought my first brand new truck. And then I bought an International. It was a 9400, I believe. And then I bought another one after that, a new International. I spec ordered. And then I went and bought the Peterbilt, and I have the Freightliner now again.
That's Smith's 2016 Freightliner Coronado he's talking about there specifically.
This is my fifth truck, and I'm looking at another one here.
Okay.
And I know that subject also came up before. I know that trade-in prices are really high, but new truck prices are extremely high, and just getting a new truck is turning out to be a little more difficult than it has been in the past.
Yeah.
So my truck here is still running good. It's in good shape, so I might keep it for a little bit longer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, have you actually talked to some dealers about a new one in recent times here? Because I know you had said that in our previous reporting that you were thinking about making a switch after winter was done.
Yeah, that's still kind of my plan for this winter.
Right.
That was my plan last winter, actually.
Right.
Winter I was going to do that.
Right.
I ended up not doing that because when the new prices skyrocketed, they went up north of 200,000 for what I'd like.
Right.
Even with a good trade in, you're still going to have a rough time with that. But yeah, I've also been talking with the company, and I think most likely now I might get a build spot when Tucker. Maybe I shouldn't say that guaranteed or anything, but it sounds like I could just buy one through them and get one a little quicker, and I could still spec order to a point.
You might not get all the things you want, but most of them.
Correct.
What's the ideal move here?
Well, I mean, the things I look for in trucks, of course, I'm on the flatbed side. So room for tarp boxes, room for the headache rack on the back. Of course, I always like, a nicer interior and not looking to get it automatic. So I still want to stick with the manuals,
Right.
at least right now. I have driven an automatic just for a day, but I imagine I get used to it. But for right now, I just prefer the manual because I've been doing that for 30 years. Good amount of horsepower is always nice.
Not committed to any particular brand or model or anything.
I'm not. I was very close to trying to. I was trying to get one of those Western Star 5700s actually, but then they stopped making those, or they will
Right.
stop making those. So unless I bought a used one, I'm not going to get one of those. We'll see what they replace that with. Western Star 49 was a possibility. I could buy one of those right now through the company. I'd probably get a pretty decent deal on it. Might go to Kenworth next. Haven't had a Kenworth yet. Peterbilt, I suppose, is very close, but the Kenworth, that might be what I look at on this next one. But not totally sure yet.
Art Pape, Tucker Freightlines now has been a big part of your career. Obviously, you've been with them now for the vast majority of it, leased on. And I was just wondering if you could speak to what that company was like when you started there, and how it has evolved over the years, and how you've evolved, I guess, with them, if that's been the case, and just how the relationship has changed, if it has, and how you've kind of managed that over the years.
Thinking that the company was around 60 trucks or so when I started. They stayed pretty small. It was a family-run business. Kind of the founder wasn't there anymore, but his sons were running it. He had 3 sons running it, and eventually 2 of those retired, and then the third one was about to retire, passing it on to his sons. But I've known the family, now since we started it. It's a family-run business, and with only 60 people and being around there a long time, I've been kind of close with the family. In fact, I'm still in touch with, some of them. And Tucker seems to be about the same way. It's another family. So the relationship is there already as far as that goes. I've never really had any problems or anything with the people in the office, even outside the family, the other people in the office, they all seem to treat people pretty decent. And the new company, the new guys coming in are all very similar in that way. We brought in a lot of new technology. Now there has been a lot of changes since the new place took over.
When did that shift happen, Ryan?
Must have been 2 or 3 years ago. It was before COVID, a year before that.
Been pretty recent, right? Generally, yeah.
So it has been pretty recent. And like with any change, I was ready, and I suppose I'm ready now. I could leave, whenever I want, I suppose, and work at most other places. I suppose is what I'm guessing anyway. But I still like it there. They're in town. I can park my truck down there.
In the way that everything works for you there, and not a whole lot has changed fundamentally, with the exception of some of the new technology that you mentioned.
So especially on us owner operators down there, we're very similar to what we were doing. I imagine on the company driver side, they've gotten the new guys coming in. They've bought a lot of big new trucks, real nice stuff.
Wow.
A lot of new equipment. And then the place is just growing. I don't even know most of the people in the office anymore, or most of the drivers anymore. I used to, know a lot of the long-term drivers anyway. There's always been that kind of in and out of the short-term guys, and it is getting to the point now where I don't know a lot of people in the office. Tucker, we started out with 60 trucks, and then it probably dropped down from there into 30s, 40s or something. And now with the new guys, they've come in, they've really grown the company too. Plus they bought out 2 other companies and kind of added them into the fold. So it's getting pretty big.
In terms of the owner operator program, are they expanding that as well, or is it a lot of company equipment that they're focusing on?
I think they focus more on the company equipment, but they do definitely do a
Owner
owner operator
operator.
program. And
Yeah.
from what I understand, they have a good lease purchase program. That's not something I would do myself. Even if I bought one through the company, I would probably just buy it and not
Right.
lease it through them. But I understand that they have a very good program for that. So yeah, they're pushing both, I suppose.
How's it worked for you over the years in terms of the kind of compensation structure? Are you working on a percentage of load type basis, or
I'm working on a percentage.
always been that way?
It's always been that way since I've been there. Well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. When I first became an owner operator on the van side, I was at a owner operator miles pay. So instead of getting the company driver who was making whatever it was, 30 cents, I don't know what it was at the time.
Right.
The owner operators made more, plus you
Right.
get any fuel surcharges or anything like that would go to the driver.
Right.
But for a long time now, that was probably just a few years I was on that, and then just went to straight percentage. So
Gotcha.
when I'm making more, it's because the freight rates went up.
Which is what's going on right now, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on now. That's why I'm doing a little better there. You know, when all the other costs are going up, that's why I'll have to go through
Yeah.
all my tax receipts here and see how much more I paid for, oil or
Yeah.
tires or
Right.
repairs.
Yeah. It's a big deal, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
It's everything's going up, cost and revenue side. So it's
oh yeah.
how it shakes out is I imagine a lot of people are thinking the same thing, right? This time of the year. Like what's it gonna look like? I don't know exactly. But, in terms of how you guys operate there, are you working with a central kind of dispatch team for your loads?
Well, they have the van side dispatch and they have open deck dispatch.
Okay.
And on the open deck, they have different groups of drivers, which basically came from the different companies.
Okay.
So I'm still with the old, the art pape side of things. So I've known the dispatcher there actually was a driver for a long time. Had
Okay.
like 2 million miles there on the open deck at Pape.
That's Tucker Freightline's Dubuque open deck manager and former owner operator Bob Schmidt. Smith is talking about there.
And then he became a dispatcher with the new ownership there. So he and actually Jordan Pape, he was vice president, I guess, of Art Pape Transfer. He's still there and working with the open deck, or at least was off and on. He's also doing vehicle purchases and stuff like that. So I'm working with the same people all the time, and they offer me a load. I could turn things down, I suppose, if I wanted to, but for the most part, I just go along with what they ask me to do. And I can tell them, hey, I need this day off, and they work real hard to get that done.
Right.
Or if I have to get somewhere. So yeah, we deal with, I guess, a number of customers, but some of our larger ones, we kind of have a pretty good idea of what we're going to end up doing for the week. Like if we take this tractor out to Baltimore, we know that we'll come back, load it up with something that'll get us home for the next weekend.
If you're doing runs like this, you're getting home.
For the most part, I would get home every week. If all they have is short runs, because we do a lot of, like on our John Deere accounts, we do end up going to just dealerships with the new stuff. So that might just be Midwest, and you might get home, 2 or 3 times during the week. So,
Right.
And then there's that whole group of drivers who just do local and regional also. And then I guess if they have a group of drivers that say, we don't care when we get home, we want to make as much as possible. I'm kind of a family man, so I like to get home. And that maybe limits my income a little bit, I suppose, but, getting old, I don't want to miss life.
Yeah.
I want to drive forever.
Totally. And you're really active back at home, right? Like I know you mentioned doing a lot of music stuff with the church. Is that right? And then
We
martial
do.
arts training as well. Like you're an
Yes.
instructor for that.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about those 2 things.
On the church side, yes, I'm quite involved with the church.
And that would be Tri-State Community Church in Dubuque, Iowa.
So I was doing music every week there for a while. That was kind of boiled down to every third week or so. Try to get some other people involved with that.
Were you like the choir director, or what exactly were you doing there?
Well, we call it choir. It's really kind of a band, I suppose.
Okay.
I play the guitar in it. We have a piano player and a drummer.
Okay.
More of a modern worship band type thing. So we do that. I'm often involved with any kind of Veterans Day, Memorial Day stuff. I'm usually involved in the planning of, if I'm not doing something myself for those. We usually have a Christmas program, and I know we just did a Christmas night musical thing.
Okay.
Almost a variety show type of thing where we let anyone come in and come up and sing a Christmas song and things like that. Right. So I've been involved with that for a long time, plus mowing of grass. So, and I'm not just up on stage, I'm trying to be somebody. And,
right.
I get out there, do whatever else needs to be done, mow the grass, shovel on snowy days if I'm around. And then martial arts, I've been doing that for a while. Started out actually with my kids, and we kind of went through that for a few years, and I just stuck around there for a while. So we do Taekwondo, Kaiju Kempo, the third Dan black belt there. I teach when I need it, when they need me, or like if I get there during the week or Saturdays. I used to be teaching a lot on Saturday mornings
at Springer's Martial Arts Academy, also in Dubuque.
Because I'm usually getting back like Saturdays and Sundays. I wouldn't leave till Sunday afternoon usually. Get back on Friday night. So that's kind of been cut back some with the COVID stuff. We did a few online classes with that. Right. But if I'm back like during the week, I'll go in and maybe help out with the classes. We've done some self-defense classes too. It's kind of geared toward women's self-defense, but we let guys in there too, which would be not so much the same as a regular Taekwondo class where you're getting in stances and doing the right kicks. That'd be more the escaping the grabs and almost the grappling type stuff, arm twisting, things like that.
Do you do a lot of that when you're on the road? That strikes me as like an exercise possibility, like in the cab of the truck, right?
Oh yes.
In some respects, right?
Oh yeah, you go through some of the movements out here. Kind of a strange thing when I'm in the showers at the truck stop. I'll usually go through some of the forms or some of the moves I need to learn. Besides doing push-ups, I do a lot of push-ups.
Okay.
It's kind of a ritual thing. Like if I'm going into the truck stop to take a shower, do usually a 3 sets of push-ups and 1 of dips. Do my stretching and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's all the book learning here. I'll show you something here.
Bryan Smith and I were talking over a Zoom video conference, and here he pulled out a book in which Smith and another instructor are pictured to illustrate a variety of Taekwondo moves and poses. You can see an example of one of these pages in the feature story that ran last week at overdriveonline.com. Again, search Bryan, that's with a Y, of course, Smith.
Aikido is what I started out with. Kind of switched to the Taekwondo here. Well, like if I need to learn like the new black belt form, if I want to get my 4th Dan, I got to learn things like this, and so I can go through all that.
Okay, all right.
And of course, I have to pose for pictures as we're making these at the school. As far as some of the moves that we do, kind of go through them.
So those books are produced by the folks at the school that you worked for?
These are, yes.
In terms of, you think back over the challenges that you've seen and the changes you've seen over the last 30 years or so, if you had to name one or an area of several that maybe presented the most difficult challenge for you, and how you what was that, and how did you end up working through it in terms of your trucking career?
I mean, I got to say, probably one of the harder things is just being away from home, of course, because I did get married while I was a truck driver, and the
Because that
kids.
happened after you started. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
When was that?
Well,
When did you guys get married?
well, I got married in '95. I
Okay.
would have started driving in '91,
Right.
and then in '99 we had our first daughter, and then we had a couple since then. So I did miss a lot of their lives. I was able to take off time, for special events, but admittedly, I missed a lot of it. And I guess we still have one at home. We have one in college and one graduated college, married, and gone away.
Those daughters would be Vivian, Bethany, and Emily Bostick, respectively. The last married to First Fleet driver Austin Bostick today.
I took after her mother, I guess.
Brian's wife's name is Martha. She's a successful eye doctor today.
She was still in college when I married her.
Okay.
She had a long time there. Yeah, so we've been married since '95.
How'd you guys meet?
We met through mutual friends. We kind of set up on a date, sort of. So mutual friends introduced us.
What's next for you? Other than plans to possibly get into another truck, how long do you feel like your career is going to continue in the current form, and what's the plan for you next? And also, after that, piece of advice for those coming up behind you. You've sort of reached something of a pinnacle here with this owner operator of the year win, and folks that are coming along, buying trucks, running their own business essentially by themselves with partners, whether it's carriers or brokers or shipper customers that they're working with. What's the best piece of advice that you have for those guys? So 2 questions there, and I think that ought to take us out to the end, Brian.
Let's see, what's next for me, I suppose. I have talked to my wife about, we're looking at possibilities of either doing more local type stuff, getting home more, or even switching to almost part-time.
I think that's a possibility with her. She probably makes a very good income doing what she does.
Yeah, she does. She makes a good income. We don't have debts.
Right.
So it's not necessary, I suppose, for me to be out here full time.
Right.
I kind of like it, and the money's certainly handy.
Yep.
Thinking about retiring early anyway, even if I stick it out.
Right.
I don't know. Those are all just kind of plans up in the air. Maybe I'll wait till all the kids move out and then stay at home, like I should have when they were there. No, as far as advice for owner operators coming up, though, if I was going to talk to someone who's thinking about becoming an owner operator, I guess first of all, I would say drive a company truck first, learn the industry, learn trucks, and then get an idea of what you want to do before you get yourself into large amounts of debt and the risk involved with that. Check all your expenses. Health insurance and things like that can be very expensive on your own. All the other benefits that might come with being a company driver that you would not get as an owner operator. Right. Even workman's comp or something. What if something did happen to you? Could you pay for that truck payment if you got injured, for the next month or two? I would say learn mechanical and electrical, at least the basics of it. Learn how to turn a wrench, learn how to fix a wire that rubbed through, how to change a light on your own, all that little stuff. Learn how to change a fuel filter if you're gelled up on the side of the road in the wintertime. Get some mechanical idea, because it is very expensive to have things worked on. And if it's something that's easy that you could have done yourself, you could save $100+ an hour of labor cost doing it yourself.
And that's only been getting more and more expensive for sure in recent times, right?
Oh yes. And I would say, at least in my opinion and my experience, I would rather work with a reputable company like Leased On than I would deal with like random brokers and things like that. Now, if you found good brokers and you could do it by yourself, that's fine. Or if you, better yet, if you wanted to just go out on your own, get your own authority, if you could find at least a main customer that's willing to give you a steady, at least one-way route, and then even if you had to take random stuff back, that would be the way to do that. But to just strike out and say, I'll just find whatever load is out there from whoever has it, you may or may not get paid. If you want to do something specialized, like the big oversized, the heavy haul, the hazardous materials, stuff like that, I would say get some experience in that first.
Right.
Don't just strike out with your hazmat tanker and think that you're gonna, figure it out as you go.
Here's a big thanks to Owner Operator of the Year, Bryan Smith, for the benefit of his time and experience. Read more about his operation via overdriveonline.com. Search Bryan Smith. Bryan with a Y. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by myself, Todd Dills, with no small amount of support from Overdrive Extra contributor and Muller trucking hauler, Paul Moorhofer, Overdrive's social media coordinator, Holly Young, news editor, Matt Cole, and executive editor, Alex Lockey. Until next time, keep it pro out there.